Jimmy D and the Wolf.
Let's see if we remember how to podcast.
Yeah, it's been a minute or two. Yeah. Your look, man, it's just cracking me up. You look like you just got off a fishing boat or something.
I'm gonna go ice fishing right after the podcast.
Is ice fishing a thing in Indiana?
When we used to have winters, it was. Now it gets almost cold enough to freeze, but it rarely. We haven't had a real winter for a long time.
How long? How many years? How many decades?
4 or 5 years since we've really gotten, a lot of snow. It used to be every single year when I was a kid. In fact, we'd miss school for like 2-3 weeks on end sometimes. My kids have never had that luxury.
What is the botanist?
It's actually it's a gin maker, and I just like the toboggan. One of our distributors at Central gave it to Crystal, and I saw the toboggan. I was like, "Hey, can I have that?" She's like, "Sure." It was free.
Toboggan? That's what you call what you have on your head? I've never heard that term.
Yeah.
I thought a toboggan was something you got on and went down a hill on a snowy hill. That's what I think a toboggan is. I guess you can wear the toboggan while you get on a toboggan to go tobogganing.
You probably could. Stand on your head and do it.
Well, different regions have different phrases meaning different things,
Yeah, it's come in handy the last few days, man. It's been cold.
How cold is it up there in Indiana?
Like 20-something right now. But we're right on the river, so it's just like it feels colder than actually than the temperature says it is.
Well, what do you have to talk about today, sir? I have something that I'm always never short on subjects, so
all I've got is the brand new year and your listening to your album.
Okay.
I know you work
about that. We can talk about that. Yeah, so I'm releasing an album, and it's depending on when I get everything lined up. The plan is to have 4 singles, and there's 14 songs in the can. They're mixed, mastered. I got them mastered over. My producer Kenny Schick did all of the production. There's amazing talent, Kenny, and he played instrument. He played on a lot of them. Played guitar, played sax, did the drums. I'm going to ask him how he wants that in the credits. Did he play the drums or did he program the drums?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he programmed them, but I'm not 100% sure. I know he played sax. He's a kick butt sax player, and he put sax on there and some guitar and bass, some keyboards. Anyway, so the name of the album is Everything I Learned in Grade School. And if you follow me on social media, the Tim Wolf, there'll be a lot more posts about this coming up. In fact, this morning, or no, not this afternoon, I should say, I paid for a claymation video.
We were talking about that the other night.
For the first single, see how that goes. Back in the day, claymation was kind of a big thing. Remember the Raisins in fact,
California Raisins singing the tin.
Yeah. The MTV logo, it seems to be, I've been looking for it. I couldn't find it. I Googled it, but there was a MTV claymation kind of a little 5-second thing, but I can't find it anywhere. The logo, do you remember that? There was some sort of a claymation that had to do with I think claymation used to be a thing more than it is today. You don't see it that much these days, do you?
No, it was a huge deal in like the 90s.
So I'm going to have a 2-minute claymation video of my first single. Hopefully it turns out fine. And my first single is going to be called Survive. 14 songs on the album, and hoping to have 4 singles. And Still deciding on the fourth single. I had one picked out, but talking to my vocal coach today, and we were talking about another one that you and I wrote. And do you have any input on singles? Do you think "Survive" is a good first single?
Yeah, I think so. My favorite,
Celebrity Deathmatch, exactly. That's what was on MTV. Celebrity Deathmatch, but there was actually something to do with the logo, the MTV logo. I remember, or maybe
forgot
moon
about
landing.
Celebrity Deathmatch. That was hilarious.
That wasn't hilarious. Yes, a lot of claymation stuff.
Man, I'm partial, but I think my favorite song on that I've listened to so far on it is "You Can't Kill a Dead Man," and of course I'm partial because I had
You
some
co-wrote
creative
it.
input,
Co-wrote it.
but I love the whole theme of it and just this. There's a like a spirituality to the
Oh,
track.
100%, 100%. It's a straight up Christian song,
Yeah,
and
really like it because it doesn't. I mean, it sounds kind of dark and brooding, and but it comes at you in a really spiritual way, and I just dig that.
yeah, well, it came from. I mean, the title came from a pastor who gave a sermon called "You Can't Kill a Dead Man." I mean, like, the Bible calls for us to be dead in Christ, crucified with Christ, and that's kind of what that is. It can't kill a dead man. You can't steal what's been given away. Are the lyrics in the two of the lyrics in the chorus. And so, yeah, and it's got 808 beat drums to it. That one, Kara, my vocal coach, liked that as a single as well. That was on her list. So, but I don't think it was high enough. She liked some of the other ones. I mean, how many singles can you have if you have,
Well, that's what we were
yeah,
talking earlier. It's hard, like as an artist, you're literally the worst person in the world to decide which song should be a single. Or, it never works that way. Like when if you write 10 songs, you say, oh, this is the one everybody's going to love because it's the one I like the most. And it'll be everybody else's least favorite.
yeah, yeah. So it's the first time that I've had these many songs to choose from. And it's the first time to go through this exercise. Artists do this all the time. You've had 7 albums, 8 albums,
7.
7.
The 8th one isn't finished. It's just been hanging out in limbo for like 2 years. I'm going to get it done one of these days.
Do you have a title for it?
No, not the very last one. I thought about calling it A Murder of Crows. I had a couple different ideas for it, but and the funny thing is, man, I should be ashamed of myself because it's so close to done, and it has been for like 2 years. And I was all about it for forever. And Henderson and I were working on it, and he's in Cali, and then he was in Asia, and it's like the logistics were a nightmare. And we both just got really busy doing other stuff, and it's just been sitting there. But I could probably literally get this thing done in a week. And it's been sitting there idle for a couple of years, but we just got to get in the same place at the same time.
So it's not the one that you've worked on with Dennis in
No.
different
Well,
songs.
that's another one. Yeah, I completely forgot about that one last winter. So there's
You
really
did like
kind of
3 or 4 songs there, or how many songs did you do with Dennis?
there's 11 on it.
What? You have 11 done?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's 11 on the stuff I was tracking in Madison. There's 11, and the stuff that I was tracking in Nashville, there's 13 songs on that. But
Wow.
neither of them are completely done. They're both really super close. They're so different though. Like the stuff we did in Nashville is really heavy, and then the stuff I cut here. In fact, I played as much piano as I did guitar on the last stuff, which was funny. Dennis was so gracious because I'm like, man, I'm not a piano player, and I'm really not, but I have a musical mind. Like I can look at a piano and start to bang around and figure things out. But he was so like gracious that he was really patient with me that, half the time we're in there, it was just me working out parts. But, thank thankfully I got to do that here and not down there, because down there it's more, you're on the clock a little bit more. But we've had some fun with it so far, man. I just got to get in there and wrap it up. It was like the first thing I'd ever recorded where I like sang harmonies with myself and stuff like that. So I learned a lot.
Which one? The one in Nashville or the one in
Madison?
The one in Madison.
Yeah, the one I was tracking with Dennis. And I've never done that before. Like,
he does everything analog, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He's old school, man. You know, I mean, he come up in that world with Lonnie Mack and, you know, guys like Neil Young, and he played with Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he played with a lot of people. But he knows so many cool little tricks that it's, you know, guys like that, when they're gone, a lot of that knowledge is gone with them too. So when I'm around him, I'm like all ears, you know. And sometimes it's stuff you wouldn't think of. One time we were tracking one time, and I was recording through a little Fender Champ amp. Like, I showed up with all my big Marshalls and stuff, and he's like, well, try this little amp. And so I plugged into the Champ, and it sounded bigger than the Marshall, which I couldn't believe, because I was like 22 and I thought amps had to be huge to, you know, sound big. And he took this cheap Radio Shack microphone and we laid it in the back of the amplifier. And so he mic'd the cone on the amp. And so it was stereo, but you had the one on the cone and the one that was laying in the amp. And I couldn't believe how good it sounded. And he said that they used to do that a lot, like back in the 70s and stuff. And it's like the back of the amp, there's just a lot of different stuff going on. It's more bassy and there's all these overtones and stuff. But I couldn't believe, man, some of the tones that we got out of like the simplest things. I mean, just like a Les Paul directly into a Fender Champ, and the Champ's all the way up.
Well, in Layla, didn't Clapton play through a Champ, or did he play through a Prince? Yeah, I thought he played through a Champ. Yeah,
sure. They sound huge, man. I mean, you can't really get away with them on gigs because they're just not loud enough. But in a studio, they're incredible. They don't have.
Is that an 8-inch or a 10-inch speaker?
It's an 8-inch. They don't have enough headroom to get like any clean sounds out of them, but they're just nasty little amplifiers. And I was, you know, argued with him, of course, when he recommended it, because I was like 23 and I just carried my big Marshalls in there that I was really proud of. And he's like, try this amp first. And of course, it just killed the Marshalls, at least in the studio.
Well, I have a subject something that I read, unrelated to music, but something that is important, I think, and that is healthcare. There is a law that went into effect that I haven't seen hardly any reporting on it, but it has to do with out of network bills and basically the No Surprise Billing Act. So is it the radical right turn? Is it okay we change, or you want to keep talking about music? We keep talking about music.
No, I want to hear this.
So, see if I can Google it and pull it up. But it was
important to everybody.
What's that?
It's important to everybody.
Yeah. So, you know, one story I read, it was in the New York Times about a story. Probably these are extreme stories, but this guy who had elective surgery on his spine, I think it was. So he planned it all out, and he was really conscientious about getting, because he had insurance, but he was really conscientious employee, and he negotiated with the surgeon, got it down to I think $7,000 for the surgeon, and he had everything worked out. The guy that puts you under, everything, the x-rays, everything. He had it all worked out. And after the fact, he got a bill. All the bills came to him, and then they got submitted. And there was a bill for $108,000. And what it was a secondary care physician out of network. And apparently some doctors do this where you're limited to what you can charge in network. But if you bring in, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, and bring in, and I don't know how common this practice is, but it is a practice where doctors they want to charge those high rates. And so they have to be out of network. And so this was $108,000 for the secondary attending physician, not the primary, but the secondary. The primary was under 10, and he didn't want to pay this bill. And his insurance company was willing to pay it, but he said, this is just going to jack up our insurance. I don't want to pay this bill. But they started, and he had the check for the 100 and some thousand that they gave him to give to them. I guess he was supposed to send it to him, and he didn't want to send it. He was going to negotiate with them, and then they got a letter from a lawyer. They were going to sue him for it. So he ended up giving up because he said, I don't have any money to defend that. So, but that is completely, that's what a surprise bill is. And so here I'm looking at it. No Surprises Act implementation, what to expect. The No Surprises Act establishes new federal protections against surprise medical bills that take effect in 2022. Surprise medical bills arise when insured consumers inadvertently receive care from out-of-network hospitals, doctors, or other providers they did not choose. 1 in 5 emergency room visits, this happens, and between 9 and 16% of in-network hospitalizations for non-emergency care include surprise bills from out-of-network providers, such as anesthesiologists, who the patient did not choose and did not even know they were there. I got a bill when I had my colonoscopy, because when you get a certain age, you're supposed to have colonoscopies, and I got bills from people that were apparently there when I was out, but I have no way of knowing that they were there or not.
Exactly, man.
Because I was out. I was incognito. I was not able to see or know. And you send me a bill, for $300 and some for doing this or doing that. I mean, that's a surprise bill. So, the new bill will protect consumers from surprise medical bills by requiring private health plans to cover these out-of-network claims and apply in-network cost sharing that now applies to both job-based and non-group plans, and prohibiting doctors, hospitals, and other covered providers from billing patients more than in-network cost-sharing amounts. So, by definition, based on what this says, that would completely eradicate the bill that I was just describing.
Well, it's criminal that, what our healthcare industry does to people is criminal.
Well, we've talked a little bit about this. You've had some personal experience. You've had some surprise bills, haven't you?
Yeah. The accident, I was in a car accident the day after my 27th birthday, and I was in ICU for 5 days and the regular hospital for a few days after that. And all in, by the time it was, the cost of the surgery, blood transfusion, x-rays, the stay at ICU, it was about $250,000. And I was 27 years old and I didn't have health insurance. And all that I knew to do, and it was the very thing that we're discussing now, I was getting bills from all these different things, and I just start calling the hospitals, and I'm like, look, you guys got to put a bow on this thing and wrap it up so I know who to send whatever I can send, because there's no way I can't pay 12 different entities. And I started paying them $60 a month, and I paid on that just about as long as I could. And financially, I was in a really, really bad spot, and I was close to losing my house. And one day I called him and I'm like, look, I got like $1,200 to my name, and I'm going to file bankruptcy, and you guys take $1,200 or I'm never going to pay you another penny. And I meant it because I was so frustrated about it. And they settled it. They settled the entire bill, which was great.
Well, which one? There's so many entities. I mean, you got the doctors, you got the hospitals, you got the...
It was all through LaGrange Hospital. which is a small hospital. So I had two different things that I had to settle. One was the surgeon that did the actual femoral shaft reduction on my leg, because I had a compound fracture on my femur. And so that was like part of the $12,000, and then the rest of it was like to the hospital itself and ambulance and whatever. And I've had two that big. When my son was born, we had a massive doctor bill too, and it's criminal. I mean, what the healthcare industry does to people is criminal. My wife's type 1 diabetic, and it's like just what it costs to keep somebody alive that has a illness like that is criminal. And those whoever is gauging that, how they can sleep at night is beyond me.
Well, it's the insurance. I mean, doctors get into it primarily because they want to help people. I believe the majority of the healthcare providers, nurses, doctors, the people who actually administer the care, are really not to blame for the most part. I'm sure there's bad apples in every category. You can find bad apples no matter what, example you're going to go after. But it's mainly the insurance system. It's so convoluted, and for-profit hospital networks, I think, as well. Because I think we're the only nation in the world who has for-profit hospitals. So
why are people still arguing for that?
Yeah,
that's.
I mean, there are some things that could be made and could be changed that would radically improve it. This is a huge step. I mean, I'm amazed that this bill is not getting more coverage, because this is a huge step in the right direction, in my opinion. This No Surprises Act passed just almost not a peep. I just happened to see buried in the Sunday edition of the New York Times that this was passed, and it wasn't even on the front page. To me, this is a big deal. And one rule or law that would go a long ways, in my opinion, would be to require all hospitals to have a price list of what they charge for things. That because it's so oblique and obfuscated, and even if you go, there was a study that the one news organization did. I can't remember where I read this, but they just for yucks and giggles went and tried to compare costs for different procedures. I mean, a procedure is pretty standardized. I mean, there are exceptions, but okay, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to replace a hip, we got to replace a knee, these are things that are fairly standardized. It's a procedure that, there's always complications possible, but things are fairly standardized. It's not like, well, we don't know what's involved when we do this. No, that's not true. They know, and they know roughly what the scope of work is, within reason. So the cost or the price can be set out in advance, but try to get that. I mean, when I did my colonoscopy, I said, tell me, well, the one I did one in South Dakota, you're supposed to do it every 10 years. When I did mine in South Dakota, I wanted to know what's this going to cost me? And I got an estimate, and I think it was around $1,500. Well, that was only for half of it. That was only for the hospital or for the doctor. I don't remember which. It ended up being over $3,000. And I didn't have insurance. I paid for it. I mean, was able to pay for it, but I was trying to get what it was going to cost me. I mean, you go get your car repaired, they're going to tell you what it's going to cost in advance.
Dude, yeah. I mean,
you cannot get that advance information. And what they can do, there's been proposals to do this that would require hospitals and doctors to post their fees. What are you going to charge to do this? And what does it cost to do what procedure did you have? You said the surgeon that did, and then you said whatever it was.
Femoral shaft reduction.
That's a procedure. He must have a standardized bill for that. I mean, that's a procedure. He knew what's going to take. So, these different terms for these different processes. And if you allow our economy, we're a pre-market capitalist economy, allow it to work. If you post those costs, people will be shopping. Okay, I think they do a better job, I'll pay more for this. But a lot, because a lot of people say, well, we're not a socialist country, we don't want to do the socialist medicine, so to speak. And if you're going to do that, then let's have our own system and allow it to be free market, allow it to be capitalistic, and allow the competition to come into play.
Right.
I mean, people are flying to Thailand and having procedures done and having a vacation in Thailand while they recover and doing it for like a fifth or an eighth of the cost of doing it in the US.
Yeah, it's
It's
completely
called it's
broken.
called medical tourism, I think is what it's called. You go lay on a beach in Thailand and recover, and you've got a vacation and convalesce, and it's good quality medical care. And like the missionaries from our church, their wife was expecting. The wife of the couple was expecting a baby, and they were asked if they were going to have it. They were going to Thailand as missionaries, and they asked if they were going to have it in the U.S. or in Thailand, and they said no, we're going to have it in Thailand because, in fact, is another fact: maternal death rate in the U.S. is at a horrible level. The number of women who die giving birth in the U.S. is at a third world country level on average.
Really?
Yeah, we have a major problem, and it's skyrocketed recently in the last decade or so. I'm not 100% sure why, but we have a problem with maternal death rate. I mean, that used to be a thing 100 years ago. You get pregnant, you might die. I mean, how many times I have, your ancestors, well, so and so, she died in childbirth. The term died in childbirth was a thing. Have you heard that term? 100 years ago, so and so died in childbirth. The baby or the mother, could be either one. Well, that really isn't a thing anymore. How long has it been since you heard someone you knew of died in childbirth, a woman? But it's more, and it's much less frequent than it was 100 years ago, of course. But it is rising, statistically rising, and to alarming levels comparative to what it was even 20 years ago. So other countries have significantly lower maternal death rates for births. So that's just one thing. I don't know what's causing that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not in the medical field, but we do have a problem. We spend about almost 20% of our GDP on medical care, and many other countries spend a lot less than that. And if we don't want to have the government take over, well, then allow the competition
100%.
to handle that and make everybody post so we can shop around and know what we're paying. And then they did a study on it, and they compared procedures from these like 10 different hospitals, and the same procedure, the prices were radically different. There was no rhyme or reason. And they did a basket of procedures, and like in one hospital, procedure A would be super high and procedure B would be super low, and then hospital B, it'd be the opposite. The same procedure A would be really low, and procedure B would be really high. There was no rhyme or reason relation to actually,
because they can charge whatever they want, man.
Yeah, they can, and it's you don't even know what it's going to be until you get the bill.
Well, that's the thing that bothers me the most is like I have many friends, and I've been kind of wired this way for a long time myself, that they won't go to the hospital out of fear that it's going to wreck them financially.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. And
well, it's sad when you see that. When you see somebody that works 40 hours a week and you're like, oh, I've been having stomach problems, or oh, I can't sleep, or whatever problem it is. Go to the doctor. I can't. I don't have insurance. I can't afford it. No, it's going to cost a lot of money. That's something that's not even quantifiable. There's no measurement for that. How many people are getting sick and dying, and costing the healthcare industry tons more.
Well, that would show up in things like life expectancy.
Yeah.
Our life expectancy is falling behind. I mean, it's still going up, but well, actually, the last year or two, I think it actually declined because there's been a lot of suicides, a lot of drug overdoses. But our life expectancy is really behind other developed nations. Now, the country with the highest life expectancy is Japan, and they drink alcohol like fish and smoke like chimneys. So those are two.
Met personally smokes.
What's that?
Every Japanese person I've ever met smokes.
Yeah, so that's not healthy living, but yet their longevity is the most of any country in the world. And it's to do with their healthcare system and also their diet, primarily their diet, probably. Sure. And they have a really good healthcare system as well. Ours actually, let's see, while we're at it, so you can Google it. Let's see. U.S. life expectancy by year. What do we got? Wow. U.S. life expectancy declined by almost 2 years in 2020.
That's huge.
That, and statistically speaking, for the population of a whole, it was 77 years in 2020, a decrease of 1.8 years from 2019. Life expectancy, a metric used when looking at population health and well-being, refers to the expected average number of years of life remaining for a person at a given age, in this case at birth. The CD said the decrease in life expectancy from 2019 to 2020 is the largest single-year decrease in more than 75 years.
Isn't that something? All the technology.
And the number 3 reason for cause of death was COVID. Heart disease was number 1. Cancer was number 2. So here we got life expectancy by year. Let's see if I can. It was going. So it was. Let's see. In 2005, it was 77.18. In 2010, it was 78.19. In 2015, it was 78.94. So going up slightly. 2015, 78.94. In 2020, 78 went down 78.81. So not a good thing. Japan's life expectancy is over 80. I'm quite sure.
Isn't they're the highest?
They're the highest, yeah. Boy, we got a lot of spammers coming in here. This is the second one. I'm blocking them as they come in.
Spammers. What's that about?
I don't know. Laura Patrick posted something to do with some kind of a, I think it was a site for probably naked women or something. I don't know. Looked like a sketchy. She posted a URL and it had some, I don't even remember. I just blocked it. I don't even know what it was, but I just blocked it. So, there's so much noise on the internet these days. So,
yeah. Really
anyway, yeah. So life expectancy is tied to the health of a nation. And let's see, what is Japanese life expectancy? Or let's do life expectancy by nation. Let's go by.
I thought they were second.
No, Japan's number 1.
I know what I was thinking.
Well, you are right, man. I'm wrong. Japan has always been number 1, but according to this, Hong Kong's number 1. Hong Kong's number 1. Life expectancy of both sexes. Oh, it's very close. Hong Kong's 85.29, Japan 85.03, and we're like 77. So on average, Japanese live long 7 years longer than the U.S. We're down. Let's see, United States. How far down the list? We're number 46 on this list.
Need to do the Hong Kong diet.
Hong Kong diet. Macau is 3rd. Switzerland is 4. Singapore 5. Italy is 6. Spain is 7. Australia is 8. Channel Islands, I don't even know what that is 9. Iceland is 10. South Korea is 11. Israel is 12. Sweden 13. France 14. Martinique, which is an island in the Caribbean, 14. Malta 15. Canada is 16. Look at that. Canada has a life expectancy of 83 years.
There it is, dude.
And we are.
They're like right there.
They're right there. They're right next to us. And we are at under 80. We're 79.
Right.
So,
and what's the difference? It's their healthcare system.
What's their difference? Well, Norway 17, Ireland 18, Ireland 18, New Zealand 19, Greece. New Zealand. Oh, New Zealand and Greece are tied for 19, and
I'm
Luxembourg
shocked that
20.
Ireland's even on this list.
Well, they are. Jeff Boyd, spam. I like that for breakfast. Fried with eggs and toast. Jeff, good to see you, buddy.
What's up, Fez?
Glad you're showing us. You're showing up. Well, now that we've solved the world's healthcare issues,
yeah.
What else you got, buddy?
Start people living longer. Get people in America living longer. We should be good to go. Man, I'm just excited, man. I'm excited about this year in general. I was really kind of gassing out at the end of 2021 and then had the holiday and kind of laid around and ate and recharged and looked back at all the accomplishments from last year. And now I'm just like on fire again and full head of steam.
Me too. I'm so excited about 2022. It's going to be a great year.
It is.
I hope everyone who's watching this has a phenomenal 2022 and stay healthy and motivated. And
absolutely. Well, at least we had 2021. 2020, it seemed like that year didn't even happen.
Yeah. Good.
COVID went off like a bomb. Like, did 2020 was 2020 real? Did it happen? Did we take the year off? So I think we get a mulligan.
Yeah, kind of. It's zero. It didn't count. It was zero. So we had to go to 2021.
They should have just held all the calendars. Shouldn't even have counted the year.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll be on a routine. Apologize to our viewers. We really didn't do much in December. We missed a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I don't think we only did it once or twice in December, but
I think we had one.
We'll try to be much more diligent and be on every Monday. I'm going to be on tour. Hopefully from the road, I can do it from the road. I don't have any gigs on Monday. That's always a day off. So I should be good for that. So hopefully we'll see you on here. We need to get some guests. I know John Mollison, got to reach out to him, get him on here. And maybe some other guests that we want to have. And thank you for hanging with us.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Let me ring the bell.